Well, Mr. President, President Rinkēvičs, President Valdis Zatlers, dear friends, it's always easy to start conferences, it's very difficult to end them. But this is my task somehow to summarize this conference and probably to put a little perspective for the future. And let me just do it rather briefly. First of all, this is the event that sometimes I would like to compare with annual checkup. Conferences, and there are many people who are asking questions, why are you coming, why are you making those presentations, why are you talking, the same people, or almost the same people, and actually covering the same subjects. That's because we are trying, like in medicine, we are trying to measure the state of the world, the state of the region. We are trying to question things, and then we are trying also to answer them, and based on analysis, based on diagnosis, we are also trying to understand what to do next, what to do when it comes to the next year. Prime Minister, when he was opening this conference, was referring to his experience when he was a young kid living and also studying in the United States. He told us that there were so-called nuclear drills in schools. Listening to him, I actually remembered my own childhood, not in the United States, in occupied Latvia, where we had the same drills. The only difference, they had to duck under the tables, we had to run to the forest. I also didn't have any kind of clue why we had to run to the forest. However, my generation, like most of you, have witnessed quite a change. 30 years ago, and we commemorated that event in August, Latvians, Lithuanians, and Estonians were forming a human chain, reminding of our independence, demanding independence and freedom. So it happened that 15 years later, those nations became both members of NATO and the EU. So it happened that we thought that this is almost the end of the history and we are on the right side of the fence, which is true still. But then we understood also 10 years later, from then in 2014, that things that we have assumed as kind of rock solid tend to change. Those are issues that we continue analyzing, be it government, be it conferences and academia, or be those analyses made by journalists. Where we are heading from today to the next Riga conference, that is going to happen in about 1 year's time. First of all, NATO. We are going to have NATO summit in London in December, and I do believe that it is going to be again about transatlantic unity, about transatlantic links, about 2% spending of GDP for defense, and for the first time, most probably, NATO is going to debate how we are going to address China. So we see that the world is changing, that there are new things coming up. Brexit. Well, Ed Lucas always loves to speak about Brexit. I was hearing also him today in our conversation with the President mentioning a little bit Brexit. Well, it's about more or less 19 days till 31st of October. Whatever comes, I do believe that we will need to put an end to this process. If UK wants to stay, we would be delighted to have them in the European Union. If it wants to leave, I think that it's about time to decide on that and to leave for two reasons. One, we need to continue with our lives within the EU. We have to address those issues. But the other thing, also UK needs some healing process. I do believe that in about 1 year's time from now, we will be discussing where we are, how we have been doing and handling this issue also on our relationship with the United Kingdom. European Union. Well, I think that there is great chance for the EU with the new Parliament and with new Commission to give a kind of new impetus for the life of EU. Yesterday, in a panel with Rinkēvičs, thanks God my Lithuanian colleague is not here because he would be cracking jokes again and he would not let finish me my great speech. But yesterday we were talking about the EU and we were told that actually we are a bit too critical and we are not kind of visionary and forthcoming. Let me just say a couple of words. With all the deficiencies, and we always love, particularly in Latvia, we always love to find what is negative about some things and only then to think what is positive. With all the deficiencies, EU is still very attractive to many nations in the neighborhood, be it in the East or be it in the Western Balkans. With all the deficiencies, the trust in the EU in all member states actually is rising. It's not decreasing. And what we have seen, EU is actually the champion right now, probably the only one that is always bringing human rights, equal rights, rule of law, democracy on its core, and also in its international relations. I do believe that also EU can overcome some of those problems that we have always talked, because always when we have crisis, be it financial or political, EU has finished stronger. We were good to come out economically from the crisis of 2008, 2009. We have seen that actually this populist wave, to some extent, is somehow disappearing. Probably we are now learning also how to cement our great union, how to make it more efficient, and I'm absolutely confident that also this wave of populism that we have seen in Annus Horribilis 2016, that we have seen also to some extent taking some of EU member states, is going to be the thing of the past. But still, we are going to have a debate where we are, how the new Parliament and how the new Commission were handling those challenges, how we have been able to handle also issues that are related to the rule of law within EU, migration, and also climate change. Three most important issues that most probably can be dividing, but also probably could provide quite a good ground for the future cohesion of the Union. And finally, our neighborhood, South and East, and also Western Balkans. In about 3 days, we should decide finally on the invitation to North Macedonia and Albania to start accession talks. We still need to have more EU, more European presence in the region. And we should stop whining about other powers trying to replace us, because we understand that this region is something that belongs to our historic and also moral and also political responsibility. Eastern Partnership and our Eastern friends. I will not mention all 6, because if I do with 1 or 2 or 3 and I don't or miss somebody else, then I will immediately get criticized and I will get the question. Let me just say that Eastern Partnership is equally important to EU as its southern neighborhood, because we all have seen how dramatic sometimes things may turn if EU or if the Western powers are not up to their responsibilities. And I think that we have plenty of things to do with our friends in Eastern Partnership. We are all wishing for some normalization in our Eastern neighborhood. We are all wishing that Minsk agreements are going to be fully implemented, and we do hope that actually this may happen, but we also believe that it should not happen at the expense of the independence of one particular Eastern partner, Ukraine. Finally, the southern neighborhood, we have been discussing also to some extent current events in Syria. We have been discussing also events in Libya and also how to deal with some of the challenges I've already mentioned, like migration. I still believe that also this debate is going to be live and well within 1 year. However, let me also say that if we speak about EU as the global player, then probably one thing, and conferences like these are very helpful. What we need more in EU is strategic orientation or strategic discussion, how we are going to let's say, have the relationship with global players like the United States, like China, like Russia, or regional powers like Turkey, like countries that are important also to our relationship. So those are things that I leave for you to contemplate and to watch and to analyze for 1 year. Hopefully all of you are coming back for another annual checkup. Let me just end by thanking all who are here, participants, speakers, supporters, but my particular thanks are going to our Latvian Transatlantic Organization and to its chairman, Toms Baumanis, and his team. They have always done a fantastic job. They have done it today again. I also want to thank my colleagues in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also my colleagues in the Ministry of Defense. This is a fantastic team that is working day and night to bring such events to the highest standard. But also let me thank all the supporters. I will not go through the whole list, but you can see them all here, that have contributed to this conference, making that a success. With that, let me declare this Riga Conference 2019 closed. See you next year for Riga Conference 2020.